over the past 3 years and be a part of their journey at this school. When I look at this graduating class, I didn't expect it.
You're good.
I wrote too much of an emotional speech. I can still see the wide-eyed 9-year-olds that stumbled into my room 3 whole Septembers ago. A little bit of excitement, a little bit of nerves, and a whole lot of potential. This group holds a special place in my heart. Through their hard work and determination, each and every one of them has grown significantly as a learner, a friend, a community member, and a leader. As they stand here before you today, I'm confident they're ready to thrive beyond these walls. I will cherish our memories, and I know that the whole Adams community stands behind you with support and excitement to follow along in all that you will do in this next chapter. As they close this chapter, each of our graduating 6 years has worked diligently and thoughtfully over many weeks and through many drafts to prepare to share their story with you today, full of memories, reflections, and gratitude as they look back over their many years that they have spent here at Adams Montessori. Michelle said it beautifully yesterday. To stay represents not only the hard work and heart that each student put into the essay that they're about to share, but today is a celebration of all their hard work over the past 3 years in this classroom. Okay, now I'm ready to introduce them. So I'll give them a minute to go outside.
Nicole and I are not graduating, but we're coming out.
Yeah, they can go sit. And then I'll call them up. All right, so welcome. The first sixth year that I would like to introduce is Connor Colander. Connor is an extremely innovative, observant, and driven student with a kind heart and a truly curious mind. I have known him to be fiercely honest and brave in his willingness to reflect and learn from his experiences and to take risks both inside and outside of the classroom. It has been so special to work alongside him and witness his growth, learning, and success over the last 3 years. I will miss your curiosity and your thoughtfulness greatly, but I'm so excited for you in your next adventure, and I know you'll be successful in whatever comes your way. So I'd like to invite Connor up to the microphone.
Hello. I've been very lucky to go to this school. I've gone here for 10 years, and it has given me a great foundation for my life. The staff at Adams Montessori School has helped me learn how to deal with conflicts and be able to accept the outcomes, whether I liked it or not. I learned how to express how I felt, even if it felt uncomfortable. I felt loved. Oh, and I learned some academics. In my first years of Adams Montessori, I was in Cherry Blossom. My teachers were Miss Maritza, Miss Ping, and Miss Christine. I remember my dad telling me that Miss Maritza loves all her students. I said, what if she doesn't love me? Spoiler alert, she did. One time when I joined Adams Montessori when I was just shy of 3 years old. I have many memories from my first years. One time at lunch, I did not want to eat my blackberries, so of course, I decided to squish each one on the floor one by one. Miss Maritza told me to clean them up for some reason. One time when I was washing the tables, I wiped around the perimeter of the table and went in from the outside in. Miss Maritza told me to do it in little circles. I said, but this is way faster. Little did I know she was preparing me for cursive writing. When we had recess, every day I would play in the sandbox. I would always think that everybody that didn't play in the sandbox is crazy. Now I kind of think the opposite. My most memorable moment was when I put the striker and a pencil down the vent because I wanted to see what was down there. Miss Maritza asked me if I put the striker down the vent. Now, I didn't know what the striker was because I had not had the lesson on it yet. So of course, I said no. I remember as a kindergartner, when we first learned to read a book, I think I did pretty well. When I got older, I liked to do research. I would go upstairs to lower elementary and get resources for my research. I used wood blocks called the brown stair to make a fire truck. I don't think I was supposed to. Some life lessons that I learned during this time were how to read and how to clean up my own mess. In first grade, I changed classrooms for the first time. My teachers were Miss Michelle and Dee. It was a pretty big change. Now we had to write our goals for the week. We also had to record every work we did and the times we began and ended in a record-keeping book. I was always excited for Friday because we had pizza Fridays. This was also the first year that I got to work in the garden. I remember being jealous because the second and third graders were invited to meetings that the first graders weren't. The next year in second grade, I found out that these meetings were just lessons and more lessons. In first grade, we also went to nature's classroom. I don't remember much, but I remember that I found bones of animals that were hunted by coyotes. There were too many coyotes on the campgrounds that year, and they hired professionals to hunt some of them. I saw the hunting tent and thought it was so cool. We had a science fair that year. Kean was my partner, and I really looked up to him. We were demonstrating how powerful water could be. Part of our experiment broke, and water shot out at my mom, who was watching the experiment, and got her soaked. Oh, and I enjoyed using the microscope that year. I often did small research projects on animals in U.S. states. One time, I was doing research on the orca whale, and one resource said that they live 9 to 18 years old. Another resource said 10 to 19. I was very confused and asked Miss Michelle. She said, "Can't you do 9 to 19? You just take a part of each resource and put them together." I had an aha moment, and it stuck with me. The main lessons I learned that I can remember is how to put two pieces of information together. In second grade, I remember being excited to go to the garden with Dee. COVID just started in Asia, and my friend Albert was nervous because some of his family was in Thailand, and he was afraid that the virus would make its way over to Thailand and get his family sick. I told him it would never make it over there. It did. We had to talk about COVID as a class. Someone said, "Maybe we'll all have to wear masks." Miss Michelle said, "I don't think it will come to that." It did. We ended up having to work from home. On the first day of online classes, we learned the 9s times table. I worked very hard that day to memorize it. After about a week, I started learning on the bluff in front of my house. My dad taught me Spanish words. One time, Dee told us how to plant a lemon tree from a seed that you would get from the store. I ended up keeping this tree alive until 6th grade. I really did not like doing racks and tubes, so when I was at home, I learned how to do long division on paper. Some of the lessons that I learned in 2nd grade were how to use Zoom and some useful Spanish. I also learned what it felt like to not be able to go do something even if I really wanted to, because I couldn't play with some of my friends outside of school. They never wore a mask, so it was not very safe to hang out with them. When we came back to school in 3rd grade, it was a lot different. Everyone had assigned seats, and we had our own supplies rather than community ones. Before we came back, I heard that some of my best friends, Mikey and Tyler, were coming back to the school. Unfortunately, since Sycamore was full, they went into Cedar. I was very disappointed. One of the most memorable projects we did was when Kareem, Ethan, and I made a very large map of the world. We wanted to keep it a secret, so we did it in Ms. Razine's office. Despite getting in trouble a couple of times for being too loud, we got it done. It was very impressive. We also wrote an essay about each continent. We did about 10 drafts. We had to stay in pods, which was hard because I couldn't play with some of my friends. A lot of kids struggled with these COVID changes and missed out on important learning experiences that eventually led to less social skills. Luckily, I don't think I was impacted that much. At some point in the year, we had a competition of who could get the most broken pencil heads. It was very random, but we tried our best. We also had math books with only about 10 pages in them, so we competed to see how many math books we could fill out. So I did a lot of math. We were definitely not a competitive class. I was very stressed to complete my 3rd year essay by the deadline. I chose Thomas Edison. It ended up turning out great. I enjoyed making the papier-mâché figure, especially the painting. Some of the life lessons I learned that year were how to write a very big essay, specifically a biography, and manage my time, which I was still learning. In 4th grade, I moved up to the Cedar classroom. I had a new teacher, Miss Andrea. She was very nice. I remember early in the year, we took a trip to Houghton's Pond. We went on a nature walk and observed plants and a few animals. We also made art out of nature. I made a huge design on the ground using different natural items. I really enjoyed painting watercolor birds with my friend Albert. That year, I learned about how to deal with conflicts and deadlines, and I improved a lot. In 5th grade, I liked doing different kinds of research with Albert. My friend Jack also joined the class. This year we could go to MMUN, so the preparation was a lot more work. My country was Zambia. I was the only one researching biodiversity. I came up with some great solutions to make this earth a better place. When I went to MMUN, I gave a speech and actually did really well. Overall, I had a blast in New York City. After MMUN, we would always play soccer during recess, and it was really fun. We still play it to this day. I studied a lot for the ISEE test, which I would need to take to go to BC High, which was the main school I was interested in. This year, we put on a play, and it was The Wizard of Oz. I did not need to practice many lines, though, because I was Toto, Dorothy's dog. My barks were on point. I practiced my square roots and also painted a lot of sunsets with watercolors. I worked a lot on self-control this year. In the beginning of my final year at Adams, I would forget that I was now the oldest in the class, and I looked forward to seeing my older friends like Albert and Rithik, but they weren't there when I came in. I studied really hard for the ISEE. After the first time I took the test, I decided to take it again. I was so nervous to take it because I knew that the next 6 years of my life depended on it. It could change the trajectory of my life forever if you think about it. It was 45 minutes before the test and I was already weeping. I kept trying to pull myself together, but it felt impossible. The test started, and after 5 minutes I was feeling better. The test is so hard. It's 3.5 hours with only 2 5-minute breaks, and we also had 30 minutes to write an essay about a topic that they only tell you once it starts. It was one of the worst days, yet one of the most important days of my life. I ended up doing pretty well, and I improved most of my scores significantly. Ever since then, I think, well, this isn't as bad as the ICE, right? Every time I cry, it just teleports me back to that moment. I also had to answer some questions for my application to BC High. Even though they were supposed to be short answer questions, I still wrote about 400 words for each. The most memorable one was, when was the time that you helped someone in need? How did that make you feel? I wrote about how I gave tours to parents that were interested in sending their child to school here. I felt very responsible. I knew that they would be judging me, not in a bad way, but to observe someone that has been going here for 10 whole years. I answered a lot of questions. Someone even asked me where I was going to college. After giving the tours, I felt very accomplished, like I had done my job. I felt good being able to give back and help the school in a way. I ended up getting into BC High, and I was not sure whether to feel overjoyed, relieved, or be humble and act like it was no big deal. I kind of did a mix of all these feelings. This year for MMUN, I was representing Montenegro. My partner was John, and I was working on preparedness for natural disasters. My roommate was Jack, and our chaperone was his dad, Bob. Thank you, Bob. Lillian won the art contest, and we got to walk around with flags of our countries to loud music. It's a tradition. The next day, I gave my speech, and I had people coming up to me for the rest of the trip telling me how good it was. I worked very hard and got my solutions to the final paper. The next day was John's topic. He was a little bit shy with all these people, so I worked with him and told everyone about his ideas. Eventually, we were able to get his solutions onto the final paper, and I was very happy for him. The coolest part about MMUN is that the leader of the General Assembly, the big cheese, would read the final papers. That means that he'll get to read John and my solutions. During the closing ceremony, we got to exchange contacts with the other delegates. I still keep up with some of them. Overall, MMUN was very successful and fun. Another highlight of 6th grade was working with circuits. It all started when I created possibly the best book club project I'd ever done. The book we read was called The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. I made a windmill that actually produced electricity using wind. I reversed a DC motor and used it to make electricity rather than use it up. Kareem, Ethan, and I decided to take it further. The first few days, we made very simple circuits and discovered new things. We were very curious. We eventually got our hands on some real electronic components and created some great circuits, such as a working scoreboard that we used to keep score of our recess soccer games. We also made mini lightsabers and had a mini duel. Later in the year, we had a science fair. I was interested in chemical reactions, so I chose to use chemical reaction to launch goods to people in need. Of course, I did it on a smaller scale. I used baking soda and vinegar to build pressure in a bottle and launch the cork. At first, I was very nervous that it wouldn't work and I would have to find something new. The first time it launched, I was so relieved. I demonstrated it 10 times at the science fair and it worked each time. For my 6th grade service project, I chose to clean up a local beach near my house. I really like the beach and I hate to see when it's dirty and polluted. I wanted to help, so I chose to clean it up. The animals are impacted because they can get wrapped up in old plastic bags and can mistake plastic for food. Also, if there are chemicals in the water or things that shouldn't be there, it can poison the wildlife. I learned that most of the trash gets caked in with the dry seaweed. Next time I do volunteer work, I'd like to work with a bigger group of people so we can make a bigger difference. Toward the end of the year, we had an interesting new assignment. I interviewed a special person in my life and wrote a biography about them. I picked my grandmother, who was the perfect person for this assignment. Overall, this year felt very different since my grade was the oldest in the school. I have been going to Adams for 10 whole years. I really believe that this experience will change my life. I'm very grateful to be able to have had this foundation. Not only did I learn how to do cube root and multiply fractions, I learned about values and how to be a better person. I'm a little sad to go, but the sadness is being swallowed up by all the excitement that I have to go to BC High, my next school. This school will build on everything that I learned here. Also, my religion will be thrown into the mix and will be integrated with my values. I am also excited because my sports and my school will finally come together and I get to represent my school. I would like to thank Miss Maritza for making me feel at home in my first years and always being there for me. She really feels like family. Thank you to Miss Ping for supporting me and helping me make my Father's Day and Mother's Day projects. Thank you, Miss Christine, for giving us extra recess and for teaching me how to tie a knot. Thank you, Miss Michelle. Where's Miss Michelle? Oh, hi, Miss Michelle.
Hi.
For teaching all the lessons in lower elementary and for guiding us through the COVID pandemic. Thank you, Miss D, for always being there for me. Where's Miss D? I can't find her. Hi, D. Thank you for helping me learn how to deal with conflicts and just being a friend that I can talk to. Thank you, Miss Andrea, for teaching me all the lessons, helping me with the ISEE, preparing me for my next school, and helping me become a better person. Thank you, Miss Celestina, for teaching me some math lessons and giving me your computer when I needed one. Thank you, Miss Rosine, for guiding me through the first 12 years of my life and for being a sort of mentor. Thank you, Miss Nicole, for organizing school events and letting us use her printer. Thank you, Miss Cheryl, for opening the door and singing, "The Eyes of Texas are upon us." And last but definitely not least, thank you, Mom and Dad, for being my parents. It's not an easy task, and you've done very well at it. Thank you for sending me to this school and making sure that I do well. You always push me to do my best. Thank you for enrolling me in many sports and not making me quit because you didn't feel like driving me. Nobody will ever be as lucky as me. You know why? Because they don't have my parents. I love you. Thank you for coming. I'll see you all again in 6 years when I graduate BC High.
He can often be found sharing his skills with others or helping out anyone that needs it. Kareem, you have taught our classmates and I so much through your leadership, independence, and strong love of learning. You will be greatly missed, and I'm looking forward to hearing about all that you'll accomplish. Can you come up to the microphone?
My journey at Adams started in the toddler classroom with Miss Veronica and Miss Sabi. Where's Miss Sabi? Oh, there you are. I remember that we made bread nearly every week and that I enjoyed baking it. I liked leaf polishing and continued to do it a lot in primary and even at home. I loved washing windows, even if the windows never got cleaned. Also in the toddler room, I learned how to talk more and how to go to the bathroom on my own. Towards the end of my second year in toddler, I visited the Cherry Blossom room, which would become my new classroom. My Cherry Blossom teachers were Miss Maritza, Miss Ping, and Miss Christine. My favorite works were the metal insets, the pink tower, the chains, the bells, and of course, leaf polishing. When I was in my kindergarten year, I remember when Miss Maritza got a new rolling chair that was the type where it was easier to push around when someone was sitting in it. This was really fun, since when Miss Maritza wanted to move her chair from one end of the room to another, she would have one of us sit in it so she could push us. I remember doing it and had a lot of fun. In my early years of primary, I thought the 10 chain was the coolest work ever. Well, everyone loves the 10 chain. When I got the lesson, I loved doing it. Once, Tyler and I did the 10 chain together, and we had a race for who could finish labeling all the numbers first. I remember I did the 10 chain at least 15 times. On my first day of first grade, I was really nervous. When I came up to Lower L for a day while I was in primary, I had learned about record keepings and how it worked. I was nervous because it seemed like so much to do, so I was glad when Miss Michelle gave the first years a simpler record keeping where we only had to write the name of the work. Because of COVID, remember that? First grade was the only year that I got to do PE at the YMCA. It was my favorite part of that year. One day, when the upper elementary students came to Lower L to work at the lab bench while I was playing waving flag on the tone bars, the upper L kids crowded me. They started playing what they thought were the notes to waving flag and asking me if they were playing the correct notes. Nothing they played was even close to correct. I just stood there while all of the upper L kids were trying to play it right. Later, I found out that it was one of their spring concert songs. In first grade, I learned how to have school in a more structured way where you had to get certain things done before you went on to do fun activities like art projects, baking, and gardening. In second grade, I learned how to do the checkerboard and racks and tubes. I liked the checkerboard, especially when I got to 2-digit and 3-digit multiplication because we got to do the magic slide. With racks and tubes, well, that's a different story. I hated racks and tubes. It took ages. Imagine counting 500 beads because of a small mistake that you made. But it was one of the hardest works ever and often frustrating. Even though it was frustrating, it helped me learn how to do division and encouraged me how to move to division on paper so I wouldn't have to use that material. In the spring, COVID hit. I remember having parent-teacher conferences on the Thursday and Friday of a week in March, and then not coming back to school for the rest of the year because of lockdown. Second grade was the worst year of COVID. We couldn't go anywhere without wearing masks. During lockdown, it was really boring because for most of the day, my parents were working or on a work call, though every morning, Miss Michelle or Miss D would make a video that normally included some sort of craft that you could do that day. We also had Zoom math lessons with Miss Rosine, and while waiting for others, Connor and I quizzed Miss Rosine on country capitals. In second grade, I learned how to have online school and how to deal with lockdown. In third grade, I was very glad to be at Adams because it was one of the only schools that reopened that fall. Most schools were still doing online learning. When I got to school on the first day of third grade, the classroom looked so different. Before, we had 8 or 9 4-person tables, while now we had around 24 tables, one for every student. We also had our own boxes, which had our pencils and books. In the middle of the year, Connor and I had a challenge to see who could collect the most pencil leads. I think I had around 25 before Miss Michelle found out and told us to stop. Connor, Ethan, and I also started working on a project that we called MPPG, which stood for Map, Project, Poster, Globe. We were making a big map of the world with our label maps on a big blue sheet of paper. We got to go down to Miss Rosine's office and work there because it was quieter and we wanted the project to be a secret. I remember that one time when Miss Rosine was telling us to quiet down, I said, "My mom's office is way louder than this." And Connor said, "Does your mom work at a football field?" We all started laughing and almost got kicked out of Miss Rosine's office for being so loud. For my third year essay, I researched the Wright brothers. Because I was researching 2 people, I made Wilbur Wright out of paper mache and got to dress up as Orville Wright. One thing I remember from the last day of third grade was when the third graders, myself included, were inside with Miss D, while the second and first graders had to go outside and practice being silent so that people could hear our graduation presentations. At the end of third grade, I was pretty sure that for Upper L, I would have Miss Celestina as the teacher, but I was surprised that there would be a new Upper L teacher, Miss Andrea. I met Miss Andrea for the first time at the school picnic at the beginning of the school year. I remember a few kids, including me, were playing baseball, and I was very surprised to see that Miss Andrea joined in. In early spring, we got a gaga ball pit, and everyone was super excited. We played gaga ball every day for recess. In 4th grade, I learned how to write essays because Miss Andrea had us write a type of essay every month. We wrote descriptive, persuasive, fiction, and comparing and contrasting essays, along with many more. Writing all those essays is probably the reason that I was able to finish my Montessori Model United Nations, or MMUN, position paper, and even this essay on time. In the fall, we went to Houghton's Pond for a field trip. Everyone was super excited. We went for hikes, played around, it was really fun. Because of COVID, MMUN was only virtual that year, so unfortunately, we didn't get to attend. Instead, Miss Andrea had us do a mock MMUN with just our class. In 4th grade, I learned how to work efficiently, how to balance my work cycle, which means working across all subjects. I also learned how to meet deadlines. When I started 5th grade, I was really excited. COVID had mostly gone away, so the plan was to go to MMUN. In the spring, before MMUN, Ethan said that he was going to make 1,000 paper cranes. Connor and I thought he was crazy, but we joined him anyway. We finished folding the cranes only 7 weeks later. There's a myth that if you fold 1,000 paper cranes, the gods will grant you a wish. So for our 1,000th paper crane, we folded it with a gold metallic paper, and for the last fold, everyone in the class folded it at the same time, and we all said, "We wish for world peace." On the day we left for MMUN, I had to wake up early to get to the train station. Once we got to South Station, I met up with the other Upper L students and got on the train. We had a great view of Manhattan on the way down. On the first day of committee sessions, I was really nervous. They had us read our speeches in alphabetical order based on our countries, so I was glad that I didn't have to go first. For the closing ceremony, we got to go to the General Assembly. Right after we got back from MMUN, we started working on the school play, which was going to be The Wizard of Oz. I got to be the wizard. One day, Miss Megan, our theater teacher, brought in a giant angry baby face mask for me to wear in a part of the play. In the actual play, when I was on stage, I had to wait for about 30 seconds before the audience stopped laughing before saying my first line. My favorite works in 5th grade were Square Root, Word Group, PEMDAS, and Play Rehearsal. In 5th grade, I learned how much work it is to put on a play and how to write longer and more detailed essays. I was very excited going into 6th grade because it would be my last year at Adams. In September, we went on an overnight trip to Nature's Classroom on Cape Cod. It was one of the most fun field trips that I've ever been on. At Nature's Classroom, I learned how to start a fire and how to whittle. On our last evening there, the counselors did a science fair, which was really cool. Some of their projects were making a penny red hot with a blowtorch and blowing flour that was on fire and crushing cans with a Bunsen burner and a bucket of water. For MMUN, I was particularly excited for the conference because it seemed that Ethan and I were going to be in the same committee room. We were both working on the issue of agricultural plastics for the FAO. Near the end of January, we had just finished our book club project for The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, and Connor had presented his fully functional windmill. It was one of the best projects ever done, so everybody was crowding around his windmill. When we came back from February break, I was surprised that we were starting our trifold that early. I was in Belgium with Riley, Evan, and Oscar. This was also the time where all of the 6th graders were applying to different schools for middle school. I applied to Boston College High, which was my top choice, and Severian. I was so happy to find out that not only did I get into BC High, but so did Connor and Ethan. I was really excited. The next day, we arrived at South Station for MMUN. We got on the train and played with Rubik's Cubes. We arrived at Penn Station a bit after lunch and started walking to our hotel. At Central Park, Connor saw a kid with a soccer ball, so Connor, Ethan, Jack, and I joined them. He looked like he was 2 or 3 years old. Connor also had an idea to teach him a celebration, so we thought to teach him to say "Soo" like Cristiano Ronaldo. Surprisingly, he actually caught on to it and was saying "Soo" After MMUN, I thought the next weeks would be boring, since we didn't have MMUN stuff to work on, but no. The day we got back from MMUN, we started working on our science fair project. chose our projects, and I decided to build a line-following robot. Some other projects were a distiller with Ethan and Jack, and a baking soda and vinegar-powered launcher with Connor. The next week, we started working on our sixth-year essay and our service project. For my service project, I decided to pull out invasive species at World's End. It felt great helping nature at one of my favorite parks. This invasive species was called garlic mustard, and once I saw how it looked, I noticed that there were even some in my backyard. I learned from this project that it's not the amount of time, but what you do. The difference that you make is not dependent on how much or for how long you do it. Every little thing counts. Finally, about 6 weeks ago, I started writing this speech. You don't want to know how stressful it was writing this speech. I've been at Adams for more than half my life. Well, 3/4 of my life when I wasn't asleep. I've learned pretty much everything that I can do at Adams. I've also made many friends that I will stay in touch with for many years to come. Thank you to Miss Andrea for helping me with the ICE and essay writing. Thank you for letting us create our own follow-up work ideas and being a really nice teacher. Thank you to Miss Celestina for being such a great teacher even if you aren't in upper all the time. Thank you to my past teachers, Miss Michelle and Miss D, for teaching me how to read longer books and starting my love of gardening. Thank you to Miss Maritza, Miss Christine, and Miss Ping for teaching me how to read and write and being super nice and fun. Thank you to Miss Veronica and Miss Sabi for being great toddler teachers. Thank you to Miss Rosine for helping me with my MMUN position paper, especially in 5th grade, and teaching me math in the COVID years. Thank you to my grandmother for the many visits and coming to my graduation. Finally, thank you to my parents for helping me and supporting me throughout my time at Adams. I could have never done this without you. I appreciate that you both always believed in my ideas and what I did. Thank you. I'm feeling a mix of excitement and sadness moving on to a new school like BC High. A lot of my excitement from my new school is that I'll get to take the train to school with Ethan, Albert, Kian, and many other students. BC High, here I come.
Thank you so much, Kareem. Next, I would like to introduce Ethan Lowe. Ethan shines in his genuine nature and his ability to step into and understand multiple perspectives in any situation. He's a hardworking student with a drive to succeed and is not afraid to speak his mind, take risks, and stand up for what he believes in. Ethan, through your laughter, you bring joy in our classroom, and you are inspirational to your peers in the way that you are true to yourself. Sorry. It has truly been a pleasure to watch you grow and evolve into the confident leader that you are today, and I look forward to hearing all about your next adventures. Ethan, I would like to invite you up to the microphone.
I started my journey at Adams in the Birch Room. I only did half days in the first 2 years because my brother was really little and my parents had to watch them so they couldn't pick me up at the end of the day. My teachers in Birch were Miss Cassandra, Miss Nancy, Miss Cheryl, Miss Stacy, and Miss Shaheen. The first time I stayed for the entire day was in my 3rd year of primary. I was getting ready to leave when one of my teachers stopped me. I was very confused when my teacher invited me back in and sat me in a chair across from one of my friends. I realized that I was staying when my teacher put my lunch back on the table. I was terrified. I thought they were keeping me at school because I had done something wrong. Later, I figured out that my brother was old enough to go to primary school, so it would just be easier for my parents to pick us both up at the end of the day. In kindergarten, some of my favorite works were the ones that involved food. Banana slicing, apple cutting, and orange juicing. I would always do them in a specific order. Orange juicing first, followed by apple cutting, and then banana slicing. Because that was the order they would run out. Even after all of this, I would still be hungry. That's why as soon as snack was available, I ran to the snack table and was always the first one to sit down. I learned a lot of lessons in primary. One of the most important lessons was that even though it seemed unfair and wrong, some things just couldn't be changed. Reflecting back on primary, I didn't make a lot of my own choices because I was afraid that I would do something wrong. Looking back, I had wished I had made more of my own choices. On the first day of first grade, I was very nervous as I was going into a new classroom. I thought everything was going to be different. My teachers in Sycamore were Miss Michelle and Diane, but we all call her Dee Dee. In first grade, I remember always looking forward to Fridays because it would be Pizza Friday. PE was also one of my favorites, as we got to skip the entire Thursday afternoon to walk to the YMCA, where we played soccer, crab soccer, baseball, floor hockey, capture the flag, and lots of other games. One of my favorite things to do in first grade was racks and tubes. In May, our long-awaited nature's classroom trip finally happened. I woke up really early and went to school. There was this huge bus. I sat down with Kareem, and he quickly became one of my best friends. Nature's classroom was a blast. It was one of the best experiences in my life. In first grade, I learned a lot about perseverance. There were a lot of things I didn't know how to do at the beginning of first grade, but by the end of the year, I knew almost all or most of the things that I couldn't do at the start of the year. In second grade, I specifically remember walking into the classroom at the beginning of the year and proudly showing off to all the second graders and teachers that I was reading a 300-page book. I think it was Wings of Fire. This year, my handwriting also became a lot better. I remember writing a research paper and then being pleasantly surprised that I could read my own handwriting. I was looking forward to going to Nature's classroom as last year was super fun. Then COVID hit and turned my life upside down. No more school, no more aftercare, and worst of all, no more Nature's classroom. I was devastated when I found out we couldn't go. Eventually, I got over it though. I looked on the bright side of things. Now I had a lot more time to spend with my parents and little brother. Learning during COVID was really different. We had Zoom meetings and a lot of things had to be virtual now. I dreaded math class because Miss Rosine would teach it, and I was afraid she would yell at me whenever I messed up. She didn't though. In my little time in second grade, the works I did the most were research and racks and test tubes. In second grade, I learned how to deal with disappointment even if it seemed unfair. I also learned how to look on the bright side of things and how to adapt to change. In third grade, everything was super different. We had to wear masks and we had our own box with all of our stuff in it, including our pencils. Since we had our own pencils, I would often pretend to lose it by hiding it under the rug or behind a shelf so I could get a new one. Hey, it wasn't my best moment, okay? I also remember the huge arguments over MPPG, Map, Project, Poster Globe, and the Candyman story. We had so many arguments. Most of the time, they were over really small things. My favorite work to do in first grade was Snack Shack Map. It was a restaurant-type work that gave you word problems. Throughout lower elementary, I was terrified of Miss Regine. Whenever she came in, I would make sure that I was doing it. I did whatever I could to make it look like I was doing what I was supposed to. Now I know that she is an extremely nice person, and so I'm not scared of her anymore. As I mentioned previously, I went to aftercare and I didn't mind it because I had friends to play with. In third grade though, all my friends didn't go to aftercare anymore, so I had to play with kids a lot younger than me. I learned a lot about leadership in my third year as I was playing with younger kids in aftercare and had to resolve a lot of arguments being the oldest kid there. In fourth grade, I was super excited to be in another classroom. My teachers this year were Miss Andrea and Miss Celestina. In fourth grade, we still had to wear masks and practice social distancing, but it was a lot less strict. The thing I remembered most in fourth grade was lunch. There were big plastic dividers that we used to separate the tables. I remember the lab bench didn't need one since it was super long. The best part about lunch is we got to play our music. Our favorite song to play was Never Gonna Give You Up. We played it over and over while we sang to the lyrics. I remember our impromptu Model UN. It was pretty fun. The countries were the Benin and the US. I was in Benin and we did lots of research and made up topics we had to research on. In fourth grade, I remember I did integers a lot. It was super easy, but I pretended it was hard so I could do it for work. I also worked a lot on squaring numbers as I wanted to get square root. In the fall, we went to Holland's Pond for a field trip. It was really fun. We took a picture on a big rock that was in our yearbook. In fourth grade, I learned a lot about writing as I wrote a lot more essays in that year. Thank you, Miss Andrea. In fifth grade, I had the same teachers. This year, the highlight was definitely MNUN. The countries we represented were Zambia, Portugal, and Kenya. My country was Zambia. I had no idea this country even existed, so I learned a lot about it. We also had real topics this year. I was discussing the need for adequate housing, which I partnered with Jen. It was so much work writing my position paper and speech. For the first couple of months, it felt like that was all I did. Once we finished writing all of that, we had to do our trifold presentation boards. We finished all of them a day before MMUN. Talk about cutting it close, huh? After what felt like ages, we were finally going. The train ride there was super fun. About 45 minutes in, the snack car was open, so we went there to play board games. I brought Happy City. The moment I entered the hotel in New York City, I was awestruck. It was huge. The best part was when we stepped into the glass elevator and shot up to our floor. My room was with my friends Jack, Kareem, and Connor. Our room chaperone was Miss Andrew. I think it was so she could keep an eye on us and make sure we didn't do anything. Guess what? We did anyway. On the last day of MNUN, we had to get up really early because we were going to the General Assembly building for the closing ceremony. There was a lot of security and we couldn't bring anything in, not even the pins on our shirts because we could scratch the desk instead. I got to speak on the podium because where past world leaders and amazing people got to stand. I felt very important and proud. Then I realized more than 1,000 eyes were looking at me and I started to get nervous. I ended up doing pretty well though. After the closing ceremony, we packed up and took the train home. Another thing that was happening around this time was our 1,000 crane project. Connor, Cream, and I decided to fold 1,000 cranes so we could wish for world peace. It started with just the 3 of us in December, but more and more people joined in, and eventually the entire class had folded a crane. Once we finished, everybody signed their names on the last paper we used to make a crane. We all folded the last fold of the crane and wished for world peace. In 5th grade, I did square root a lot with crane. I also remember our civilization research. I remember picking ancient Greece and writing all about it. Albert also did a research on ancient Greece, although it was a lot better than mine. We decided to make a clay city of ancient Greece together. We added too much water and the entire thing cracked. Albert and I both looked at each other and started laughing. In 5th grade, I learned a lot about public speaking as I spoke in front of a lot of strangers at MNUN. In 6th grade, I was excited to be in the oldest grade of the school. School was where I could have fun and hang out because at home I was studying 24/7 for the IC. It was hard, but I'm really glad I did. Eventually, it was time to take the test. I was really nervous, but it was for the wrong reasons. It wasn't because the next 6 years of my life depended on it. It was because our vacation to Hawaii was coming up and I really didn't want to study there. The studying paid off and I got a pretty good score. I remember then I started to focus on MNUN. My country this year was Myanmar and my topic was the guidance on the use of agricultural plastics. In March, I got my letters to see if I was accepted to BC High. One day, I asked my mom if I had gotten in. I found out that I did and I was super happy. After we came back from MNUN, we started working on our science fair. At first, I had no idea what to do, but Jack and I looked at this chemistry book and we found a distiller. We thought it was interesting, so we started doing research on it. During the science fair, we explained how it worked to all the kids and adults. It was really fun. We also started this new essay called our Special Person Project. I also started my service project. Annie and I made sandwiches to give to fatherless. I thought this was an effective way of spending my time helping others. My MNUN topic was on adequate housing, and this influenced my decision to do this. More work needs to be done because not enough people are paying attention to the homeless situation in the world, and I thought we could all start here. I feel that most homeless people are unlucky. This could happen to anyone. My journey at Adams has been amazing, filled with adventures and excitement every step of the way. From learning how to write to typing on the computer, there has always been something new I've learned here. Being at Adams is a journey I will never forget. Or I won't forget most of it. Nevertheless, my journey at Adams will have a special place in my heart. I have made countless new friends here that I hope to keep in touch with in the years to come. Lots of people have helped me along the way, and I would like to thank them for it. Thank you, Miss Cassandra, for welcoming me to Adams and making me feel like I belonged here. Thank you, Miss Nancy, for always watching after me and making sure I was always doing what I was supposed to. Thank you, Miss Shaheen, for teaching me most of my fundamental skills that I still use to this very day. Thank you, Miss Stacy, for strengthening my fundamentals and making sure I would do well and grow well. Thank you, Miss Michelle, for teaching me how to read, write, and solve basic math problems. Thank you, Dee Dee, for helping me resolve conflicts and helping me when I felt troubled and needed some advice. Thank you, Miss Celestina, for teaching me additional lessons and making every single one of them interesting and fun. Thank you, Miss Elisa, for watching over me and making me feel welcome and aftercare. Thank you, Miss Cheryl, for greeting me at the door every single day and also for watching over me in my first 3 years of primary. Thank you, Miss Nicole, for letting us use your printer. You rock! Thank you, Ms. Razine, for helping me with most of my MNUN work and making sure to redirect me when I needed to be most. Thank you, Ms. Andrea, for welcoming me to the upper L classroom and preparing me for my time after Adams. Thank you, Mom, for always making sure I was doing well at school and pushing me super hard when I was studying for the ICE. Thank you, Dad, for teaching me lots of quirks and tricks and also for always being there for me. Next year, I will be going to BC High. I am very excited to go there next year, but I'm also scared as I will be leaving everything I've known behind. Whatever happens there, it will be another adventure with new experiences and surprises.
Thank you, Ethan. Up next, I would like to introduce Annie Olivia Bradford. Annie Olivia has proven to be a diligent student, a kind and a caring friend. She stands out in her honest, kind, and responsible nature and is reliable in the level of effort and self-discipline that she brings to all that she does. Annie, it has been such a pleasure to watch you grow, come out of your shell, and evolve into the leader and the person that you are today. Your joy and laughter can lighten any room, and you will be greatly missed. But I know you will thrive in this next chapter, and I'm so eager to hear about all that you accomplish. I would like to invite Annie Olivia up to the microphone.
I have lived a life of 12 years, and most of those years were spent at Adams Montessori School. Here I have gained wisdom, great memories, wonderful experiences, and lifelong friends. Today I have decided to share these memorable moments in my very short life. As a toddler, what I can remember is washing windows. I was obsessed with washing windows, and they were big. In fact, I loved the work so much I hated having to stop. I also remember nap time. This is where I met my current best friend, Lillian, for the first time. She and I went to recess together. I had super nice teachers named Miss Sabi and Miss Veronica. During this time, I learned how to follow a routine, how to paint, sort, and I learned a lot of vocabulary. When I was in primary, my teachers were Miss Lindsay and Miss Rim. My favorite works were the Pink Tower, Binomial Cube, Washing Dishes, and Land and Water Forms. I remember hanging out with my friends Naomi, Lillian, Abigail, Reagan, and Riley. I became friends with Riley after we found out we had the same shirt. Reagan became my friend after I said hi to her. That hi made us friends for 5 years. All of my other friends had been with me in the toddler classroom. I had the same teachers for the entire time I was in primary and kindergarten. I remember my teacher, Miss Lindsay, reading to the class. My favorite works were dot painting, cutting apples, juicing oranges, the bead chains, the blindfold work, and the stamp game. I learned many things, like how to count and how to write. I also remember that the sandpaper letters made noise when I traced them. Lily moved to the birch room, and I asked her why she left Willow, and she replied, because I'm getting bigger and bigger and bigger. After kindergarten, I went to first grade. I was so scared entering my new classroom because none of my friends were going to be there, except Lily. Luckily, I made friends quickly, and I hung out with my friend Ethan at recess every day. I also had my first pizza Friday. I was so quiet, I always had to repeat myself, unlike now, where I can easily make my voice heard. My teacher Dee took some of the class outside to the garden. This developed my love, and back then it was an addiction for gardening. I also remember going to PE at the YMCA. Most of the time I did works like racks and tubes, the checkerboard, and math board. I loved math, until someone decided to put the alphabet in it. My friend Athena taught me multiplication, and after that, I was trying to figure out how 2 times 2 and 2 plus 2 can both equal 4. During this time, I was learning how to subtract, how to read, and how to divide. Some things I recall was finding out that my friend Lillian's name became Lillian, not Lily. I was so shocked my jaw dropped on the floor, and I had to practice calling her that. Whenever Miss Rosine walked into the classroom, I'd become even more focused on my work. I used to be scared of her because she was the principal, but now I know she's a really chill and understanding person. My class went to PE on Thursdays, which was exciting because I never did that in primary. I also learned how to set goals using a goals list. While I wasn't successful at first, I eventually got them done. Miss Michelle taught me many logical analysis lessons and grammar box lessons. It was all about language. Not much happened in second grade. We had virtual learning because of that thing called COVID. I didn't learn as much, but I did get to practice a lot of the stuff I knew. Not being able to learn in second grade hasn't affected me that much. At least, I don't think it did. Fast forward to third grade. I wrote my third year essay with the other third graders, and I had so much fun and learned so much about Maria Montessori, the person the essay was about. I also remember writing a story with my friends Lillian, Ethan, and Kavya. We never did finish it because COVID was still around. We had to split the class in half to go out to recess and to have lunch. I learned how to play goggleball during recess, and I also learned how to write long essays. I learned how to do long division and long multiplication on paper. Everything was long. The next year, I went to a different classroom and met my favorite teacher, Miss Andrea. The year before, I had never gotten to work on pin maps because it was so hard to sanitize them. Remember COVID? This was the first year I did it. This year, Lily and I were assigned seats at the same table. We had a class pet for the first time, too. I remember doing works that I knew from lower L, like logical analysis, grammar box, and multiplication on paper, but this time they were longer and more complex. I also got a lesson on square root binomial, and I loved it. And then I got the lesson on trinomial. It was so hard, I soon changed my mind. Fifth grade was so memorable. I went to MMUN for the first time, and I had so much fun. I also remember doing a stone soup project with sycamore. The food was good, but the cornbread was rock hard. None of us could bite through it. I also remember doing an essay on civilization. I loved writing it. My favorite works were square root trinomial. I had finally started to like it. Logical analysis, pin map, word study drawers. We also did a play called The Wizard of Oz. My best friend Lillian and I were cast as the main role, Dorothy. We continued to go to the garden. I learned how to do square root polynomial this year. I also learned how to do algebraic notations. I was starting ISE practice, and I thought it was really hard, but little did I know that it was only just the beginning. In sixth grade, I had more ISE practice, and it seemed to get harder, but the test was a whole new level. My class went to nature's classroom, and I was so happy because I wasn't allowed to go in first grade. Thanks a lot, Mom. When I went there, I learned how to start a fire. I went to MMUN for the second time, too, and got to hold my country's flag. I had a lot of authority when the people in my country, Myanmar, were making the poster boards, but I had to do so much work. I also met my friend Milena at MMUN. We were going to be pen pals, but we haven't been in touch since I left the UN, but I'm going to write this summer. This year, my class did a science fair with Sycamore. I spent so long doing the research, but it was worth it. I loved the works, square root, biomap, cubing, cube root, converting decimals, pin map, and algebraic notations. I did the capstone service project this year. I wanted to put together bagged lunches for Father Bill's homeless shelter. I thought homelessness was really important because a lot of people are struggling in Massachusetts. I found out that one of my fellow sixth graders was doing the same thing, so we decided to work on it together. It was good to work with someone that I ordinarily don't work with. I learned that I can help people in my community by doing small things like making lunches. I realized that homelessness doesn't always happen in rural or poor countries. It happens in our own backyard. My experience at Adams Montessori has meant so much to me. The past 12 years have been so amazing. Firstly, I would like to thank my best friend, Lily, because she's been friends with me for 11 years, and that deserves some recognition because I can be really annoying. Next, I would like to thank the rest of my friends I've had at Adams because they have always been there for me. Thank you, Miss Andrea. You have been my favorite teacher and the nicest. You taught me how to do square root and have been helping me with writing essays for 3 years. Thank you, Miss Rosine, for taking me to NMUN and being really nice to me. I could have never asked for a better principal. Thank you, Miss Olsina, for helping me with my position paper. Thank you, Miss Lindsay, for teaching me how to count. Thank you, Miss Steve, for sprouting my love for gardening. Thank you, Miss Michelle, for teaching me how to read and how to write essays. Thank you, Miss Sabi and Miss Veronica, for teaching me as a toddler. Finally, I would like to thank my mom and dad for taking care of me and putting me into a private school. I'm so grateful for meeting my friends and having such wonderful teachers. I feel sad leaving Adams, but I can't wait to go to my new school, Notre Dame Academy, with all the knowledge I've gained throughout these past years. I've had so much fun at Adams, and I've learned too, of course. The Montessori experience has been very helpful over the years. I learned so much more than 1 plus 1. I learned how to make friends, how to ask for help, how to stand up for myself, and most importantly, how to cut apples. I'm forever grateful for everything that I've learned from my friends and teachers. Adams Montessori, I will miss you.
Thank you, Annie. And finally, I'd like to introduce Lillian Schofield. Lillian is an observant, compassionate, and hardworking person with a remarkable attention to detail. The effort and care she puts into all areas of her life is an inspiration. She is a brave advocate and a fearless supporter, and I know she'll continue to do so as she moves on to her next adventures. Lillian, I'm so grateful that you were able to share your understanding nature and your kind heart with our classroom, and that I was able to watch you learn and evolve into the leader and exceptional person that you are today. I hope that your next chapter will be full of joy, growth, and books, and nature, and art, and of course, solving the world's problems. I would like to invite Lillian up to the microphone.
I've been incredibly lucky to go to a wonderful school such as this one. As it is such a tight-knit community, I've grown up here knowing the principal, the toddler teachers, the elementary teachers, and the elementary teachers for many years. Along my journey throughout the classroom, I've made friends that I hope to have for the rest of my life. These are my years at Adams Montessori School. When I was 11 months old, I joined the second Adams Montessori toddler community. The teachers in my classroom were Miss Veronica, who I still remember as being very kind and gentle, even all those years ago. I also remember Miss Sabi in the toddler room as being very welcoming. When I was in toddler, I remember how someone made me wear this sweater with a pink poodle and a bell on it. It was super itchy and irritating. Here, I met my best friend, Annie Olivia. I also sat with my friend Naomi. One of my favorite works was window washing because of the large windows in the classroom. I learned how little I could do when I was small. I was so ready to grow up. I also learned that snow was delicious, and I should eat it whenever I could get my hands on it. Although I don't remember everything, I know that the teachers in that classroom influenced my life in the best way they could. When I was 3 years old, I moved from the Elm Room to the Willow Room. Although it was a huge change for me at the time, I was very excited to go. I liked the idea of being a big kid, so to speak. My new teachers were going to be Miss Lindsay and Miss Rim. I came home every day from Willow and told my mom I'd just done the gold 10 chain. I obviously hadn't had that lesson yet because I just transitioned to primary. But if you did that chain in Willow, you were automatically super cool, which is probably why I told my mom I did it. Unfortunately, she didn't get how cool that made me. I liked doing the pink tower, but what I especially liked doing was watching the older kids do their work. I wanted to be just like them and do the awesome things that they did. I also liked doing flower arranging and placing the smaller vases all over the classroom where people could admire my glorious work. It made me feel special, like I had a role and I was needed. I learned how to observe without distracting the people that I was observing. I also learned how to make friends in a place that was unfamiliar to me. Back then, if somebody had a cool shirt and you told them, you would instantly be friends. My friends at the time were Abigail, Naomi, Annie Olivia, and Reagan. I left Adams for a year, staying home with my mom and my new baby brother. When I returned, I started in the Birch Room. At first I was wary, but I immediately began to warm up to this new space and all these new faces. My teachers were Miss Shaheen, Miss Nancy, and Miss Stacy. I looked forward to singing on the rug with my class and Miss Shaheen every day, especially a song about cookies with pink sugar on top. One time my mom came to observe in Birch, and I spent the entire time washing a table. Sorry, let me rephrase. I spent the entire time washing the underside of a table. Oh well. I also remember how cool it was that my teachers had indoor shoes just like me. It made them seem less like teachers and more like friends. I like to do work where there are plastic animals on a farm, and I had to match them to cards and then record my work.
Looking back, it was the humble start to the beloved grammar boxes. I also remember doing science experiments with Miss Shaheen, such as separating oil from water in a bowl. Another thing that we did in Birch was class jobs. I really liked to feed the fish along with everyone else, so I memorized how the card looked face down on the rug. I was so proud of myself, although most of the time I messed up and didn't get the job I wanted. In kindergarten, I remember getting an invitation to go to Lower L for a day. My friend Caroline got so mad when she didn't get one. We immediately wrote a letter to ask why she didn't get an invitation to go. I thought the letter we sent was so professional because we decorated the outside with blue and purple colored pencil and rolled it up into a scroll. One of my favorite works was dishwashing, where I would pretend to be a witch brewing potions. My friend and I practiced our evil laughs as quietly as we could until kids started giving us the evil eye. I also learned that some things were just meant to be and that I couldn't change them. Looking back, kids in lower elementary seemed like adults, but when I got to lower elementary, I thought the kids in upper L were adults. It's funny how those things work. When I was about 7 years old, I joined the lower elementary classroom, or Sycamore. This time was a little different, however. Instead of having entirely new teachers, one of them was Miss Michelle or my mom. This was pretty strange for a little while, but I quickly got used to it. The other teacher in Sycamore was named Miss Diane, but everyone called her Dee. She had a green thumb and sprouted my love of learning about plants and getting my hands in the dirt. I held on to this love of plants and everything green throughout all my years at Adams, and I hope to study plants and life on Earth for many years to come. For the first time ever, I had this thing called a goals list. It was hard to finish all my goals by the end of the week, but I soon fell into a rhythm with my work. One of my favorite things to do was PE, where we would take the bus to the YMCA. My city partner was Layla, and she was like my idol. I looked up to her so much, literally and figuratively. I was excited that my friends from Birch, Kavya, and Ethan were in Sycamore as well. My friend from all those years ago, Annie Olivia, was also in Sycamore. Kavya and I would do checkerboard together and tell each other stories we insisted were real about purple and green sparkly dragons flying through the window. Let's just say we had strong imaginations. One of my favorite works was the rainbow drawer. I was very proud that I was already on the blue drawer. I was also very eager to learn the grammar boxes. I wanted to finish all the boxes before I went to upper elementary. This year, I learned that I had a lot to learn. I was just a little first grader. I needed to find my place and show the other kids who I was. Luckily, by the end of my first year in lower elementary, I was just beginning to do that. In second grade, we created this thing called Leaf Club. It was very strange. I remember how I copied down the entire introduction to some tree identification book. It was so hard, and I didn't understand a word of it, but I thought it was very important, so I kept on writing. When COVID hit, it was all a blur. There were these weird activities that we established for school-at-home learning, like a paper checkerboard and print-out paper beads. There wasn't even a paper stamp game. Miss Rosine taught us some math on Zoom that year. I also learned that if I didn't play games during work cycle and left all that stuff for recess, it made it much easier for me to get my work done. My work began becoming a better quality, and I began to notice and improve my handwriting skills. I was really excited to go into third grade. Third grade was my last year with my mom as my teacher. I was very grateful to her for being my teacher and my mom at the same time, which couldn't have been an easy feat. I also know that I could be a bit of a handful at times. I was sad, but also excited to go into a new classroom for the first time in 3 years. There was a new assistant in lower elementary. This was exciting news. At first we called her Miss Corey, but she insisted we call her Corey because she says she wasn't a real teacher. She was super talented at basically everything she did, and I wanted to be just like her. The person I studied for my third year essay was Greta Thunberg. I remember how the third graders got to stay upstairs while everyone else had to practice being quiet in the stump city for our graduation. Dee kept giving us the side eye as we ran around and yelled. One of my favorite works was creative writing. Annie, Kavya, Ethan, and I all wrote this, inventive book called Candyland. We had several fights and Zoom calls on the topic. We made such a big deal about it, but let's just say we were not destined to be the next Mark Twain or Mary Shelley. I was sad that my friend Kavya wasn't going to upper elementary with me, but that meant I became best friends with Annie Olivia, who was, and still is, a very good influence on me. In third grade, I learned that some things are for the best, and they can make you realize what you might not have noticed before. When I came to the Cedar classroom for the first time, I was nervous and excited at the same time, but mostly nervous. The work here was so much harder than lower elementary. More was expected of me, but at least I finally got to be one of the big kids. The big kids. I met my teacher, Miss Andrea, who was cool and super calm. We also had a fish in the classroom for the first time in over 3 years. I was super excited. One thing that surprised me most of all was that we had to write a journal entry each morning, and we were expected to do at least 5 to 6 works a day. I was horrified. Coming into upper elementary was a big change. I stuck with the works that I knew best, like 2-digit long division, the grammar boxes, logical analysis, stamp game, and checkerboard. Miss Andrea taught us a new and strange math word called square root. I thought binomial was pretty easy, but then I got to trinomial, and it didn't seem so easy anymore. Also, word group changed. There were these boxes for word group instead of a binder. In my first year of upper elementary, I learned how to deal with deadlines and write short journal responses to start off my morning, both of which I was not familiar with. I learned how to expect change, and that if I was going to keep up with my growing responsibilities and workload, I was going to have to set my priorities straight, put aside trying to please others, and make time for myself. When I was in 5th grade, the routine had changed because COVID was slowly going away. Miss Celestina was in our classroom for more than the year before because there weren't really pods anymore. Miss Andrew was our main teacher again, and Stripey, our beloved class pet, was still going strong. I remember making stone soup with lower elementary and how the cornbread they made was so hard we almost woke up the toddler banging it on the table. Everyone said that it was delicious, and I'm sure it was, if only we could have tasted it. Another exciting event that I remember was going to MMUN for the first time in my entire life. At first, when I found out we were going, I was less than excited, to say the least. We did a mock MMUN in 4th grade, which in my opinion was not that exciting. If I had known how fun the trip was going to be and how fun it was to make the trifolds, I might have been a bit more motivated from the start. In any case, I got my topic, which I was pretty excited about, rights of the child. During the course of the months leading up to the trip, I spent almost every minute working on my position paper, and often down in the office. Not because I was in trouble, but because Miss Rosine was helping me a lot, both with my paper and giving me a piece of sugary dried mango, the equivalent to coffee for me. I felt exhausted or pretty done with all that ruthless writing. I was doing more work in school and at home than I'd done in my entire life, and I was very proud to be a Zambian representative. The day to leave for MMUN was here. We went on Amtrak to Central Park and to a sweet burger place called Bear Burger. I was super nervous and excited for the opening ceremony back at the Marriott. Everyone was screaming so loudly during this flag procession when the 6th graders came by. I think I broke my eardrums and my voice box that night. Some of my favorite events included culture night, celebration night, and staying up until 10:30. I especially liked that last one. Ethan, my committee session partner, and I worked super hard, and we both got chosen to speak at the UN General Assembly. It was really humbling to get to speak where so many peacemakers and leaders of change have spoken. I was sad when I had to go back to Quincy, but it was one of the best experiences of my life, and I don't think I'll ever forget it. My best friend Annie Olivia and I got cast as Dorothy in the school play. It was tons of fun, especially because I'd never done any acting before. I remember I had an especially hard time with square root, but I gradually got better as the year progressed. One of the bigger projects we did that year was ancient civilizations. I studied ancient China along with Rithvik, and I remember never finishing the drawing of the temple I was supposed to. Whoops. I practiced square root, and even though it was extremely tedious, I feel much more confident at it now. I'm happy I practiced it every day because it helped me a tremendous amount later. I also learned that it was okay to be silly and laugh with my friends, but I needed to control myself because I could be wayward and wild sometimes. In my 6th year, I went to nature's classroom for the first time in almost 5 years. This time around, however, my dad came instead of my mom. It was lots of fun having them, even if we didn't get to be in the same cabin. However, the girls and I got to be in the same cabin with Miss Andrea. We also went to MMUN for the second time. Some things were different, but this trip held its own unique wonders. My partner was Kathy, and together we represented the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. Woohoo! As we were getting ready for the opening ceremony, Miss Andrea told us to open our catalogs to page 29. She said it was very important, that it had to do with our schedule for the next day. We slowly opened our catalogs and, hilariously enough, took our sweet time finding the right page. Then, suddenly, Riley started screaming at the top of her lungs. My first thought was, oh my gosh, there's spiders in the catalog. Fortunately, no giant spiders emerged as we all flipped to page 29. Then, we all started screaming. Something had happened that I had not expected at all. 5 minutes later, we gathered in the hall with the others. Annie and I, though, we knew something the others didn't. Our chaperone left when the 6th graders got ready to hold our flags for the opening ceremony. We made our way to the front of the huge line and sat down for 1 hour. We waited another 20 minutes until we walked through the door to the giant crowd of people and the song you might know by now, Waving Flag. The substantial thing that happened was that my design won the MMUN art contest. Remember our screams? I went up to the stage and shook the hand of Gabrielle Forestieri. They also gave me a poster. I was really proud and honored to have won. This year, my topic was disaster risk reduction. I was chosen again to speak at the General Assembly, as well as Kathy, my committee partner. At the General Assembly itself, I got to shake the hand of the manager of MMUN. I was sad that I wouldn't get to go again, but this time around was better than anything I could have imagined. My favorite works this year included essay writing, square root polynomial, cube root binomial, PEMDAS, word problems, logical analysis, and converting fractions, decimals, and percents. The service project I chose was to collect diapers and art supplies for refugee children and families housed in Lowell. Through this experience, I learned that I'm passionate about working with humanitarian aid because in a small way, I'm making people's lives easier that persevere through many struggles and helping to bring those challenges that they face and the support they need to the attention of our community. My family and my community at Adams have helped me to grow, so I wanted to turn to the wider community and show that same support and love. This year, I worked to assure myself that I'm brave enough and smart enough to go to an entirely new school. I'll survive. I might not feel ready, but hey, it's not like I have a choice. I probably am ready, though. The support that this community gives me is unmatchable. Adams Montessori has made such a difference in my life, both academically and socially. I know that I will always have my friends that I have made here to have my back, and that makes all the difference in the world. As much as I would like to thank every single person that has helped me along my journey, we would be here for days. I'll try to get all of you in there, though. Firstly, I would like to thank, this was planned, Annie Olivia, because she has been best friends with me for 11 years, and that deserves some recognition, because I can be really annoying. I would also like to thank all my friends that I've made at Adams. Thank you to Miss Veronica for guiding me gently through my first humble years at this school. Your kindness and loving nature are among my first beautiful memories here. I would like to thank Miss Sabi for always being a kind heart that I could look to for guidance. Thank you, Miss Lindsay, for helping me ease into my first year in the Willow Room. Thank you, Miss Shaheen, for being one of the kindest people I've ever known, always singing songs with us and making every single day in Birch some of the best days of my life. Thank you, Miss Nancy, for welcoming me into Birch with your warm-heartedness and your ability to make anyone feel less nervous. Thank you, Dee, for sprouting my love of gardening, solving the arguments that went on in lower elementary, and making me take the truth pledge, which I still stick to this day. Sort of. Thank you to Miss Celestina for being cool, fun, and honest, but also helping us get our work done when we were rolling around the classroom not doing anything, and for playing Never Gonna Give You Up during lunch. Thank you to Miss Andrea for always encouraging me to tell you when something is bothering me so it can be resolved and not fester, and for making everyone in the class feel good about themselves. Thank you to Miss Nicole for giving me bags of clothes every time I walk by your office, letting upper elementary print way too many things from your printer, but always being gracious and forgiving about it, and being a magical person. You know just what to say and when to say it. Thank you, Miss Cheryl, for always asking about the kids who weren't there and making sure they were okay. I admire how kind you are and your ability to make anyone feel better, even when they're having a bad day. Thank you to Miss Rosine. It's hard to find the words to thank you because you seem more like an aunt to me than a principal. You are a strong, confident woman that I'll always admire and look up to. Thank you, Miss Elisa, for welcoming me into aftercare whenever my mom had a meeting. I'd like to thank Finn for tolerating every moment that I came home from working on my position paper all day. I know I was probably pretty annoying. Thanks again for being the best little brother that I could have asked for. I I want to thank my grandmother for all the sewing she did for all our auction projects and for the play, and I could go on and on, you know. Last but definitely not least, I would like to thank my parents for always being there for me. Thank you, Dad, for always showing me things from a new perspective and doing your best to help me with anything I was having trouble with. Thank you, Mom, for supporting me, giving me advice, and teaching me with your whole heart. I know it couldn't have been easy being my mom and my teacher at the same time. I admire your determination, because I could be one crazy kid sometimes. I will be forever grateful that you decided to enroll me here, because this experience has changed my life. I love you both and all the hard work and dedication you persevered through for Finn and me. Thank you. I look forward to my future at my new school, knowing that I'll always have my friends and my teachers to guide me, long after I've left this school. I have made memories that will stay with me forever. I will take all the lessons that I have learned with me to Madeline Duggar Andrews Middle School. And no, after all this time, I still cannot remember how to spell Montessori.
That sense of community and partnership and that love that each of you feel for each other, even though you argued with each other and were upset with each other, had to come down to my office to resolve a pencil dispute or something. You guys really care about each other. Yeah, look at the looks on your face. Right?
Okay, as part of our parting gift to you, we would like to present you with a journal and a pencil so that you can continue to record your favorite memories, reflect, be creative, and maybe even throw in a quote or two, and maybe even a rose, bud, and thorn every now and again. As I call your name, will you please come to receive your journal? Lillian Schofield. Annie Olivia Bradford. Ethan Lowe. Connor Colander. And Kareem Focal.
We have one more, and it was actually Michelle that had suggested these books years ago, and I absolutely love it. By Cleo Wade, and it's What the Road Said. And there's a piece in here that says, "How do I start?" I asked. The road smiled and said, "You have already started." "Well, what happens when I get there?" "We have just begun," said the road. "Do not skip straight to the ending. Enjoy the beginning and the middle." And when you started in toddler and primary, that was something we instilled in you, that there was always a beginning, a middle, and an end to all the work that you did in the school. So these books are for